It is Geek Speak, and today we are going to be talking about migrating to Google Analytics 4. We all know it's coming, and what do we need to do to prepare for it? And to do that today, it's going to be myself, Phelan. I work at Seymour Digital Media, where we focus on search engine marketing, and I will be joined today by.
Rena Little from Little Works Indie Media, a digital agency in Vancouver. And can I start us off, Phelan? Because I love this
Yeah,
part.
okay.
Okay, so the biggest question on migrating over to Google 4 is, and I can even answer this. Do I get to ask the question and answer it?
Sure, why not?
Right on. So, because the rest I don't know anything about, so this will give me my little moment in the sun.
Good.
So, when should you migrate? Well, here's two things that you need to know. The two biggest important things in my mind, and that is the two Google Analytics don't match up. So you can't use the old Universal Analytics and look at that and then look at the new one and make any kind of comparison. So what you're going to want to do is start tracking the Google 4 before you need to, so that you have a month, at least have a month overlap. What we recommend, I think Phelan's on board with this, is getting it sorted ASAP so that you have lots of data in the new section and you can do some comparisons in the old one and the new one until you get the hang of what's happening and you can
Yeah.
discuss the data better with your clients or understand the data that's going on your site much better by having that data. So if the sunsetting is happening in July, I think, right? June or July next year?
Yeah, I think it's June.
June.
I have.
Okay, that's right. I think it's sort of near the end of June, though. There was something about the 23rd or the 22nd or something like
Yeah,
that.
it's the.
But
I remember
anyway,
the date is the 23rd for sure. I just don't remember the exact month.
it's either June 23rd or July 23rd, probably June 23rd. Let's aim for June 23rd. So you're going to want, I like to compare year after year because most of my clients have kind of sales cycles through the year. So comparing month after month doesn't always give the best information. So I like to do year over year as soon as I can. So now is the time to organize your Google 4 if you want to have a year's worth of data to compare to next year when they sunset the universal analytics. So that's number one. We can take that off our checklist, Phelan. Now,
Yeah,
some of
and
the
and I'd also building off of that, just because I've had issues with people who are concerned that they're gonna you're not supposed to have two analytics going at the same time.
yes,
The Google Analytics 4 and the UA do not conflict. Because they're just doing two different
yes,
things. You do not need to worry about them polluting each other's data. They're fine running perfectly with each other until the moment that they get the UA gets sunset or Universal Analytics. So don't
great.
stress
That
there.
is such a good point, actually.
Yeah.
Yes, if you do have two Google Analytics code on your website, remove one if they're universal, but you can run
Or
one.
G4, GA4.
Oh yeah,
Either one.
that's
You
the
don't
one.
want pairs of whatever the same one is. Do not have a pair of them.
That is true. Very true. Thank you very much for correcting me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So then, Phelan, how hard is it to install this new Google? What's it like? You've done it. I haven't quite done it yet. So
Uh,
you want to answer
to
that
get
question?
Yeah, honest, it's so it is actually. Google obviously wants to make it very easy for anyone to get on board with the new system. They wholeheartedly recommend installing it through Google Tag Manager because
Yeah.
it's meant to like fit like a hand into a glove. That
Yes.
these two systems work together perfectly. So definitely, if you're gonna use, if you have Google Tag Manager already set up, I think it's uh, the third tag when you create a new tag. It's called GA4 configuration tag. Just
Oh,
you put in your
great.
ID, and then you just say all pages, and then you're off to the races, and you're done. It's honestly,
Okay,
it is.
so you do it. So what you're saying is that if you have Tag Manager set up already, you log into Tag Manager, you organize your tag from there, and then you add it to your site. Is that correct?
Well, you'll just deploy it, and then if you've already got Tag Manager already installed, then it's just running there, and you're off to the races. And
Okay, so you don't have to even put a tag on your site if you've got
no,
it organized with Tag Manager.
yeah, Tag Manager takes care of all of it for you.
Great.
It's
Okay, so Tag Manager is gonna is a spot to do it, but then you can actually see the data in Google, your regular Google Analytics account. So when you go into your regular Google Analytics account, what is it going to look like?
it's going to be a lot more pared down than the old Google Analytics. There's fewer tabs that are out there. It's more focused around reports and building kind of complex reports, and so you can pull in different bits of data and cross compare. Um, they have some pre-built ones that can get you started and kind of get you thinking about how the system operates. The one of the big things to kind of think about that's a little bit differently than Google Analytics Universal is that it's all built around events. So an event also includes a page view. So someone comes to a
Right.
page.
Can I just stop you right there? We're going to
Yeah,
insert some basic information in here, and then we're
yeah,
going
yeah,
to run with the goals and events. And what I want to make sure that everyone's clear about is that when you log into your Google Analytics, you're going to get the little option to look at your universal analytics, and then below it, you're going to get your G4 option. So it's both going to be in there for you to view. And once you get in there, so as Phelan was saying, it's organized around events. And so what can those events be? And this is how Tag Manager is really helpful, right? Because you
yeah.
create those events and goals to track in Tag Manager, and then you view them in Google Analytics. So tell us what you can view as an event in Google Analytics for.
Yeah, so the really cool part is that they don't have strict events of like it needs to be the event itself can be anything, um, because it was originally designed for apps, and so excuse me. So what they did is they gave it the event itself is pretty malleable, so you can make it any event, and then under that event, actually, you can set parameters. So an example I would use is say you guys have multiple phone numbers on your website. You could just have tell tell link clicked, and then the parameter is the actual number itself. So in your report, you know that there are all these tell links, but then you can cross compare which one was the one that actually got clicked on the most by parameter.
Oh, that's great. So you can see, is it the telephone number at the top of my homepage, or is it the telephone number in my contact on my contact page?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can set the location of it as well, like based on its like class. Like, so you can pull out like some people might say it's like in the navigation, so it might say nav as the class, and so you can pull out all kinds of cool stuff. Uh,
Okay.
it's it's a little. I will admit, it's a little overwhelming at the start, and there's a bit of a learning curve there. But there are a lot of really good resources, and people have had time to play with it and build it up, and so if you do have questions, there are a lot of really good resources. I'll put a link to the YouTube channel I follow the most for this in the discussion. It's called Analytics Mania, and he does a really good job at going through a lot of this.
And so one of the things that comes up for me is, are we, and that I'm still a little confused about because I haven't done any of the setup myself. Um, are we actually setting up those goals in Google Analytics, or are we setting them up in Tag Manager to be seen in Google Analytics?
Um, that's a great question. And what it is that there are, okay, to clarify, there aren't any more goals now in Google Analytics 4. There are conversions. And
Okay.
and you turn an event into a conversion. So you create the event in Tag Manager, right? So say, for example, like we said with the telephone number being clicked, right? To the business, that's actually probably still going to be a conversion, right? Because it's super important. So you're going to
Yeah.
go into the configure tab, and then you're just going to say, oh, this event, because they'll have a big table, and then there's a little checkbox on the far right hand side that says, make this into a conversion, and then you say yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds really cool. So basically, when you go into Google Analytics, if I go into multiple clients, depending on how it's set up, it's going to look different.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
It's going to be
customized.
yeah, it's super customizable to whatever the needs are of the client. One thing to very much keep in mind that's totally tripped up our team when we've been setting this up, you have to affirmatively set the if you make a custom event, you have to affirmatively set it up on the Google Analytics dashboard, meaning you have to tell it you should be expecting an event called this, and so that way, because if you don't, it does all kinds of weird things, and it's just you have to tell it you should be on the lookout for this event called this. And
Okay.
so with that, it's a little tricky, but yeah, it's definitely well worth it to keep that in mind.
All right. So the one thing that I really want to spend some time on here, because I think this is one of the most important aspects for anyone that's doing digital marketing and paying for ads. Can we talk about what the changes are or what you've noticed for assisted conversions?
Yeah, so or once you've got the assisted conversions, there's they actually make it a lot easier to. I know that you and I love multi-channel funnel in the old
Yes.
Universal Analytics, and
Yes.
they're well aware of this in the new one. So what they did is they made it even easier for you to find, and it's one of the big. I think it's called user journeys is the name of it, and it shows you
Okay.
all the steps that took along the way for a person to make it to the conversion point. And
Okay.
yeah,
That is
and
awesome. And
yeah, so
so,
they do make it they make that one way more pronounced, which is super nice. And so the flip side is my go to of source and medium table is just so much harder to find now. You have to
uh,
custom make it yourself, which is kind of weird that they wouldn't have ported that over.
okay. So I'm still going to be able to tell my clients how many conversions were assisted by Facebook ads,
Yeah,
and the dollar amount of those sales, and how many sales in the average sale. All of that stuff is still going to be there.
yeah, yeah. It should all be there once you have it set up again. Like that's the big one. It's just having it set up is the hardest part. But once it's there, you're off to the races.
And is there anything new and interesting in that area that I would want to know about?
In the sorry, the
The conversions. Is there any other
oh
data that's going to be collected or shown or
well
anything else?
again, going back to how we talked about parameters, right? Once you start adding in all kinds of new parameters, then you can start making all kinds of new reports comparing these conversions against those parameters. So
So
did
a conversion isn't necessarily going to be just a sale in this section. Then is that what you're telling me?
it, I mean
So
it's
I,
whatever the business
I
owner wants it to be.
all right, so I can see, like, let's say I set up telephone, like that's a good, a fine
Yeah.
enough example. If I set up telephone calls as my conversion, then I can show all of the assisted steps to get to that telephone call.
Yeah, that's the theory is that you'll be able to see all the steps that it took before that they even did that conversion.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay, that's going to really give a lot of information then, and it's going to tell us which buttons and where things need to be put, and where things
Exactly.
can be taken off. Like, you know, do we need a contact page at all?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
Interesting.
yeah, there's definitely it's going to be really useful as people build it out and you have these more robust sets kind of developed. Um the the one of the parts that's going to be interesting that I just remembered now that it's kind of weird is the transition in your data studio reports because they're going to be different.
Okay.
And
And what
and
about,
I oh, go ahead.
sorry, go ahead. You finish that thought. I
Oh,
just had,
yeah, I was just gonna say that the connections. I think that the Google's in-house built one for Data Studio is
Mhm.
perfectly fine with doing UA or Google Analytics 4, but the issue comes up where uh, the tables themselves, right? They take in different data as we talked about at the very top. So like the reports themselves might need to be rebuilt a little bit and need to
Right,
be
right,
refinessed, and so
right.
that part is going to be a bit annoying. Again, this is why they're giving us loads of runtime to get all this fixed, is because they're fortunately being uncharacteristic for Google, but they are actually being ahead of the curve and doing stuff. They usually have a habit of like killing something 6 months out and then
Right.
leaving you in the
So,
lurch.
okay, so two things. First of all, yay, I can finally see who's talking on Facebook. So
I
thanks for
think that
joining us,
they're
Mona.
yeah, I think that they're on one of our pages, and so that's a public
Yes,
page. I think that's
is
what's
that how
going
it
on.
works? Okay, I've got it. Oh, I see. It's because it's a private group that we only get
Yeah.
Facebook use. We don't get the name. Ah, I got it. Okay, great. And then the second part is, oh no, did I lose my thing? I did. I lost my brain. I lost my train. I lost my train. Um, oh yes, that was what it was. Reporting. So, is there already the ability for other reporting platforms to start working with Google for, or
Uh,
do you know anything about that? Because I haven't actually checked into that yet.
I haven't. I know that our best friends in the whole world, Supermetrics, does have a specific connector for GA4 that has come
Okay,
up, and so which I was kind of weird. I didn't know if they would need a
right,
separate one, um,
right.
and so that's been a little interesting. I'm trying to think of. I haven't. I mean, I haven't really looked per se, but I'm sure that everyone is that does any sort of reporting is definitely looking into it.
Okay, I'm going to check with the Raven reports, which is what I do. And if anyone else uses a reporting system, let us know in the comments below if your reporting system already has configuration for Google 4, Analytics 4. That
Yeah.
would be super helpful because we don't want to be working with reporting systems that isn't already on board with that. And so when we plan to make the shift over from like to add on, because it's not really a migration, right? It's actually just a completely separate setup, a new setup. So my question is, how long does it usually take you to do this? So if someone wants to set up their analytics, how much time should they put aside to do this? Is this a quick thing? Is this going to take a long time? Or is it dependent on how many events they want to organize?
Last one is definitely the answer. Yeah, it's. I mean, getting the initial setup and just having it tracking just general information without any sort of the event tracking. That's 30 minutes if you know how to use Tag Manager. Honestly, you're in and out.
Okay.
You're laughing. Getting the event tracking with Google Analytics 4 and having it set up all this nice intricate systems. Um,
Yeah.
that's gonna take some time. Again, as well as what we talked about, the reporting. It depends on how customized you want it to be, how different the things you're wanting to track versus what the new Google Analytics 4 tracks. Like, what's one of them? They have different names for things now too, which is weird, but it's a byproduct, of course, of Google Analytics 4 being for apps, and then they just spot welded
Right.
it onto websites, and then they're just like, oh yeah, this is going to be the new thing, and um, so that's kind of a big one. If you're doing internal traffic, I will post a link to the guide of how to set it up, but holy jeebus, is it just a weirder system to set up internal traffic filtering.
Great. So somebody was chiming in saying that it's about 6 to 8 hours, depending if there is cleanup, then more time if there's cleanup needed. Um,
Okay.
yeah. Okay.
Just
It's good to know. I
oh,
think it's good
that was
to have
Pip.
I figured it would be.
Yeah, yeah. I was like,
So,
that is a very specific. Who would have known that stuff? But uh,
so yeah. So thanks, Pip. It is good to have an idea before you get started that you have got a good stretch of time. And
yeah.
what about, can you set up some of it and then add in extra things later?
Oh, 100%. This
Okay,
is not
great.
a you need to do it all at once right now. The biggest one is just get the tag collecting. Everything else, build it up, and so that say you do it over 3 months, then that'll be fine.
Great.
Uh, oh, apparently I'm not loud enough. Sorry about
Oh,
that.
I can hear you. Oh,
Okay, well, I just raised the gain on my mic, so hopefully that will also help. Um, oh, that is also Pip. That's and so yeah, that okay, just getting rid of that. And perfect. Okay, awesome. Yeah, audio control. Hard to do when we are in a streaming platform. Um
yeah,
it's
that's true.
yeah, that well, because like you and I hear each other just fine. And we're like, what do you mean you can't hear us? Like I hear me just perfectly well. Um
Exactly.
yeah, one of the big things that will come up, especially for anyone doing Google Ads, is this is a way deeper integration between Google Analytics 4 and Google Ads,
Oh, yeah.
meaning that you build audiences based on events. Um, so this can also be positive and negative events. Person viewed page, person did not fill out form, right? So, or did not complete order. Um,
So do we send ads to people who don't fill out the form or complete the order?
Well,
or
that
do
it
we?
gives us that option. So you could do retargeting ads
Oh,
so
that's
that you
great.
can have it really specified to these people. You can break down very specific audiences based on even the parameters. So it's people on mobile. We could do it based on location because that's a parameter as well. Um,
Right.
and so it gives us all these really detailed options that if you want to get as fine grained as you humanly can, it's definitely an option for you. And it's just one to bear in mind that that is going to be something that's available to you, is that this really deep integration will help with the audiences and building out with Google Ads.
Great. That's good news, actually. That's very
Yeah,
good.
yeah, it's been pretty cool, especially once you kind of, because they were always like, oh yeah, it's deeper integrations when it first was announced, but like,
Mhm.
what does that actually mean? What does that
Yeah.
look like on the ground? And they weren't very clear. But now, as I start to dig into it, that they're actually meaning these, deeper integrations, as in like specific events, and then you could do affirmative or negative, right? So, did this but not that. And so that those are people you want to target with like display ads and stuff like that to retarget to them.
Great. I'm just looking at our list. Okay, so is there anything else we should note before?
Oh, yes. So if you are a big fan of regex filtering like I am, so you're sick and tired of seeing L.Facebook, M.Facebook in your analytics,
Yes, I
uh,
had no idea you could get rid of that. We can get rid of that?
not anymore. You used to be able to, but for some inextricable reason, my guess is that it's something I I honestly can't figure out why they're doing it this way. Like to
It
me,
would,
the way they
it
built
would,
the system.
like if they could actually be more specific, like if they knew that L dot Facebook was Android and M dot Facebook was something else, like that might be useful. I don't know why though, but
Yeah.
but honestly, I don't know why they can't funnel all of the mobile into one spot for a grand total. Like
Yeah,
that
or
doesn't.
all the Facebook, because like if you're
Yeah,
really doing fine grained stuff, you'll probably add your own UTM parameters. You don't need Facebook to
that's
add
true.
these little things. You can just do
Oh,
it yourself.
if it's organic traffic or not paid traffic, I would like to know the difference. The only difference I want to know is between mobile and desktop. You know,
So
because
that one you'll be able to pull out using, well, the issue I have is less about like, I want it more aggregated, because if you have all these little bits that are just like,
Mhm.
five or six, and it's just polluting the graph where you can't really tell because it's so crowded.
That's right. That's
A lot of the
right.
time I'm just like, I just want Facebook, and then if I need to split out mobile versus desktop, I'll do that part. But I just want Facebook so that I can do like Facebook, Google, like
Yeah,
YouTube, like whatever. And so
yeah,
I'd rather it be shaped like that,
yeah.
which is annoying that they Google Analytics 4 doesn't filter out that kind of stuff or allow you to do it. But it might be coming down the pipe because it's still,
Okay, that was going to be my next question. Did you notice? Because obviously, I actually really rely on my reporting system that breaks everything down and organizes things for me,
yeah,
because I'm not that comfortable in Google Analytics for everything except for assisted conversions, which I
yeah,
really
yeah.
love. But regardless, do they usually um, add features to Google? Like
Oh, yeah,
you're
100%.
expecting?
So,
Okay.
um, there have been extensions and features that have come on board of the as they've built it out. So a
Yeah.
lot of the videos that I've watched about it are, as of yet, they don't do that, but it may be coming in the future because Google is very cagey about their product roadmap on stuff like this, and they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, maybe we're gonna do it, maybe we're not," and like they won't tell you a straight up yes or no,
Yeah.
which is annoying, but it's whatever.
Yeah. And I've got one other question that's not really on our list at all. And I
Okay.
just thought of it. So I'm going to just pitch it out to you. One thing that I noticed, because recently I had two clients that are using this plugin because we don't do recurring packages with them. We just do a la carte tech support basically with them.
Yeah.
And they're using Monster Insights and running their analytics on the dashboard of their WordPress, which one thing that I know is that any kind of plugin that's like that is going to be huge and slow down your site. And also, what I've just recently discovered, be unreliable because one of my clients has this. They were depending on this for running a particular campaign, and then they found out that it wasn't actually working. And because I was only doing some of the help, I didn't actually notice that the Monster plugin, we didn't install it for them. I didn't even know it was there. And I didn't realize that it wasn't working, and nor did they before they started their campaign. So then there was this big, you put a lot of money into your campaign, you run it, and then you have nothing to report back if you don't have any data. So thankfully we were able to find some information on Google Analytics. But what is your feeling about running? I mean, I basically gave you my feeling, but what is your feeling about running Monster Insights, and what else can you add as to why you might want or not want to work with it?
Well, I think you just laid out why I don't like Monster Insights. Is I don't like something mediating between the Google
Yeah,
Analytics tracking and like it firing. Like I prefer to have it in the tag manager. The
yeah,
tag manager just fires it, and then if I need a specific event tracked, that I'll do that in tag manager. I don't like these tools that mediate it because they're they can be prone to hacks, so they
yeah,
they have like they can have vulnerabilities, they might not
right,
work, they may not
yeah,
work with your systems. Like I just try to make it simple and just use the tag manager with Google Analytics tag.
yeah.
And then honestly, especially for marketers, this is I would, if you have not learned tag manager, you should start learning it because your life will get revolutionized and make your life infinitely easier.
Totally. I'm really shocked by this. We've been using Tag Manager for a long time, but only with clients that use Google Ads. And now I'm starting to use it for everything because it's just a complete different thing. So, one of the things that I've noticed and is a pain in the butt is going back and forth between Facebook and Google Analytics to make sure that the numbers are correct. Because, of course, if Facebook is selling you ads and they make mistakes all the time, and I'm not going to bother going into moralizing it or making an ethical
Yeah.
claim on anything. But the fact of the matter is that there is an impetus when you're creating something to make sure that it looks really good, especially when you're taking ad money for it, right? So, and we go back. I get notes all the time where I follow. You follow the data. Companies, and every now and again they'll send you out this thing that during this period Facebook did something weird or something glitched or whatever, and you're
Yeah.
going to get a credit on your ad spend, and or all of these things, which makes the numbers not quite right. And that's usually what I find. Sometimes the numbers are good and sometimes the numbers don't match what Google Analytics is saying. So I always go by Google Analytics, which makes me think that what about this Monster Insights? How can we actually be 100% certain that those the mediator companies are actually giving us accurate data to work with? It's fine. I'm sure it's fine for people who are starting out and they don't know analytics, and they want to see some easy numbers,
Yeah.
and it gets you sort of into the mode of actually checking what
Gets
you're doing.
Yeah, it
But
gets your toe wet and gets you into that field and gets you like a little sample of it. Which, and like you
yeah,
said, for a complete novice, totally, it's a great place to get started.
yeah,
You will need to graduate pretty
yes,
quickly to the new system,
yeah,
because it's just and. But yeah, like you said, it's a good one to get mediated. There is a little story that because this came up all the time when I worked at Shopify, was
great.
that
Your
Shopify
story.
Analytics, Google Analytics, and Facebook Analytics all have discrepancies between them, and that's
Yes,
because like how you collect the data, they all are doing it slightly differently. And what counts as this, and what counts as that, and how do you count these parts? And it's complicated, right? Like at the best of times, it's complicated, and so
yeah,
these systems all do, and they're also doing different things. So the thing that I always said with like Shopify, I'm just using this as an example because it's an easy one. Shopify, they really suck for where your sources of traffic came from. Like
yes,
it's not very detailed, but the
yes,
checkout process, that is
yes.
gospel, because like that is literally their money, is
Well,
that
exactly. That's what
checkout.
they. Yeah, that's what you know. That's what they
Yeah.
know
Yeah,
exactly.
and so they have to have that as like gospel, because like it's money that's changing hands, so they need to know 100% that there was no weird charges, there was no like double
Yeah,
ordering. But the Google Analytics doesn't really care about that, so it might tell you extra things. So basically, you need to know what is the strong suit of that analytics platform. What is it that they're better at? So Facebook is usually better at audience kind of building because that's
Yes,
what
that's
their bread and butter is. And then Google is much better at doing, all these detailed params that we've been talking about, where they're talking about like, where did they come from? How long did they spend? How many pages did they visit? That's what they're really good at. And so take that as really being the thing that they're good at. And so, yeah, you just have to be very cognizant of what each platform is, its strengths and weaknesses.
that's right.
But that is actually bringing us up on time,
Yeah,
which is
did we
kind of a
cover our entire list?
we did. We covered it and then some. Yeah. All right.
Right.
And so I'm just quickly checking what.
Oh, I have it out already. So next
Oh,
week is I do. Next week is reporting is sexy and it helps your business
yeah.
with Pip and me. So I'm very excited about that because anything that's sexy, I want to be part of.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know
Well,
how
and it
that's
follows. Well, and it follows nicely on the heels of this conversation as well. As
exactly.
the next step is going to be the reporting after you've
That's
set up
right.
and you've migrated, is figuring out the reporting.
So we are in the cyberpunk um,
Marketing
cyber
mixer.
mixer cyberpunk. How does it go again? Why don't
Cyberpunk marketing mixer.
cyberpunk marketing mixer? And we are in a Facebook group. So if you're watching this from anywhere else, that's great. But if you'd like to join us for more information, come into our Facebook group. And until next week, have a great week.
Yeah, and have a nice long weekend, everyone.
Yes, that's
Let's.
right. If you're in Canada. Oh,
Oh no, or the states,
oh,
because
I've been
Mondays.
Monday off too. That's right. It works out perfectly
Yeah,
this year.
yeah. That's why I was just like blankly
Never
like, have a nice long weekend, people. Provided you're
perfect.
in North America. Uh,
Great.
all right.
Let's see you
Bye for
later.
now.